sharing it on, and there we go, right on cue. And sharing this, I believe, on our YouTube channel. So if you're not comfortable being on that video recording, please just turn your camera off and keep it off as well. Also, if you could please keep yourself muted while not speaking and while we're presenting, just because we do have quite a lot of people on this call, so that will help reduce kind of background noise and any connectivity issues. When we get to the question section, however, feel free to come off mute and ask all the questions you'd like. And I believe we have transcriptions on, but if you require live captions, please do let us know. And yet we'll have a Q&A at the end with plenty of time for questions. Next slide, please, Carrie. Oh, on it, thank you. So this is our agenda for the day. Jeff and I have already said hello and welcomed you all today. And then we'll go straight into a bit of information about the fund, just covering some of that kind of key information. I'll then go into some of the more techie aspects of signing into the portal. We've launched a new portal at UK Youth, which we'll be using to make the actual grant application. So I'll walk you through that. We'll then move into the kind of nuts and bolts of completing your application. So we'll be looking at the form and the questions page by page, going through all of that in depth. And then finally, like we mentioned before, we will have plenty of time for question and answers at the end of the session, where you can come off mute to ask questions, or you can always pop them in the chat box. And please do feel free to send questions through in the chat during the entirety of the session as they come to your head. I know I always forget my questions if I save them to the end, so please pop them through. And if we're able to answer them in the moment, we will, or we'll come back to them at the end. Brilliant. So I think I'll hand over to Jeff now to just say a bit about the fund.
Thanks. So yeah, here we go. We've got this brand new fund. And first of all, the source of the funding is the Pears, right now is Pears Foundation, who have put up £5 million so far. 4.5 million for distribution, and then another £500,000 for the actual support program that will be in place for grantees over the 3-year term. But this is funding that is carrying on. So our fundraising team are hot at it right now, and they will continue to be for several months. So UK Youth have launched a big cost of living campaign, and there are lots of aspects of it. A big aspect of it is just really trying to get it onto the agenda of politicians and media and so forth, what a hit the youth sector is taking during these current financial times, and that more support is required. So you're going to see a lot of information going out, going to try and get some news stories going and just really raise the volume so there can be a bit of a call to action in lots of different ways to support the youth sector. And only one of those aspects is by UK Youth doing some direct grant distribution. So we've already, I'd say, got 4.5 million from Pears for that. There's a couple of other organisations that have put in some smaller amounts, so we are expecting that funding to increase. The sorts of grants, levels of grant that we're going to fund will be approximately, we're looking at making grants of about 10% of the annual income of your organisation. So, you know, if you're a £100,000 organisation, we would expect you to apply for about £10,000. But that's £10,000 a year for 3 years. So all in all, you would get around 30 grand. Why? The reasons for that? Well, when we're looking, obviously, at the landscape, the panorama of the sector, we know that there are a lot of organisations in financial trouble. But what we didn't want this to be is another crisis fund. Through the pandemic, we went through this where there were a lot of organisations hit, and we ourselves ran 2 COVID crisis funds, where the focus was just about getting cash into organizations to stop them from going under, stop them from having to turn young people away. And as valuable as that was, feedback that we also received from organizations was, yes, that's kept us alive, but the big issue now is we need stability, we need security, we need to know that we've got money over a number of years, not just for the very short term. And we need unrestricted funding. So that was the agreement that we came to with Pears, that any funding they would give us would be over 3 years and an unrestricted grant. That the sort of, but we were also aware that the sorts of financial need that people are experiencing are going to be very broad. So this is not really a crisis fund. If you're in a position where you need a very significant amount of funding to get you through the next 3 to 6 months, then this is perhaps not the fund for you. But if you're experiencing financial difficulty, and we'll get into the reasons behind that in a little while, if you're experiencing this financial difficulty and that's hindering your operations, stopping you from either developing or running as you should do or meeting need that's out there, and that could potentially tip you into even a worse crisis situation, then this is the sort of fund for you. And we'll go into those details in a minute. So although we will be looking for organizations to show us they are in financial need, the real focus of this application will be on continuing excellent existing youth work. So we're going to be asking questions to yourselves to tell us about the sort of work you are doing and explain to us why we need to support you as opposed to not, basically. It's a rolling application window. So as of yet, we do not have a closing date for this fund. A couple of reasons behind that. One, obviously, because hopefully money will continue to roll in. Two, what we don't want is people that need the money now to apply and then have to wait several months before they get a response. So we will be assessing as applications come in. But also we want everyone to have a calm and more reasoned approach to this fund. In the past, our funds have been open for 3 weeks and that's it. And it's been a real gold rush. And I know a lot of organizations have said it's a bit panicked when they've suddenly got to stop what they're doing and pull together an application to put into us within just a couple of weeks. And it might not be the right time for you to apply. So I wanted to remove that barrier. I wanted to remove that area of stress and just say to you all, apply when it's right for you. Take time to talk to the people in your organization, your young people perhaps. Have a look at, where your finances are lying. You might need to be waiting until the end of this financial year to get a better picture of what's going on in your organization before you apply. That's fine. You apply when the time is right for you. And we're hoping what that will create is much higher quality applications that have been given some thought and real attention. The key, we'll go through all the eligibility in a moment, but the key eligibility requirement is that this fund is open to all youth organizations based and delivering high quality youth work in the UK and who have an income of £500,000 or less, an annual income of £500,000 or less. And I will talk again on that point in a few moments' time. Next slide. Okay, just some few little key dates, just to put into perspective. Obviously, we are open and it stays open. We will close at some point. I'm anticipating the fund to remain open for at least 2 or 3 months, hopefully longer than that. But what we will do is when we've assessed that, okay, it looks like we've only got money for a certain amount of time more, we will then put a notice on our website giving everyone at least 2 weeks notice of the closing date of the fund. Okay, so don't be too panicked, and we'll let put other information out there as well. Every week we will be doing a webinar like this with a Q&A session. These will be filmed as well, so you can go onto our YouTube channel if you want to watch them back. And if you're sitting here listening to this one, if you don't decide not to apply for a month or two, by all means, come and sit in on another webinar. Because as we are assessing and receiving information about the sort of applications that are coming in, there may be some really useful facts that I can feed back to all of you. There may be certain issues that I'm noticing amongst applications that will be useful to feedback. So by all means, if you've watched this one, come by and watch us again if you fancy it. Or you can get the video off YouTube. Like I said, we'll keep filming these, we'll keep putting them on YouTube, and you can get them and watch them back at double speed. So there's one application form, but depending on how much you request, you will then be channeled into one of 2 tracks. The fast track will be for requests of under £10,000 a year. Now, I hope I can stand by this, but we are aiming to turn around applications of under £10,000 within 3 to 4 weeks. So you make an application, you submit it, within 3 to 4 weeks, you should have an outcome of that application. I'm really hoping we can stick to that. And if it's for a larger grant that you're requesting money, so over £10,000 a year, then that's going to take a bit longer, about 7 weeks. They all go through the same degrees of assessment. It's just we're putting others through separate funding panels that can only gather once a month. So there'll be that little time lag. And as I've said before, applications will remain open while the funds remain and fundraising continues. If you are successful, what are you signing yourself up for? Well, just an annual light touch online grant report. You complete that, and that's what will get you your subsequent year's funding. As this is UK Youth, there will also be an entire host of Funder Plus support available to you. None of which will be mandatory. It is all there for your support. You Thriving Minders, you'll know all about that. Won't be quite as focused as the Thriving Minds Fund on mental health, because this is just, we realize everyone will be coming to us for slightly different reasons. But yeah, that's the main requirement for you. I've just spotted a question that flew in there. Can we apply more than once? No, you cannot. Okay, you can apply once. Okay, this is 3-year funding. So you make one application, and once it hits us, that's your application for this fund. You won't be able to apply again. If we are already funding you through one of our other programs, such as Thriving Minds or perhaps the Digital Inclusion, you are still eligible to apply for this fund as well. But you can only apply to this once. We're expecting quite a few applications, so don't make us do double the work for you. Okay. And yeah, I think moving on now, what's the next slide? Oh yeah, and I'll hand back to Sydney for the real technical bit.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so on to the techie aspects before we get into kind of the content of the grant. So just this morning, I think at 10 o'clock, we've launched our kind of website about the grant with a bit more detail than the one that was launched yesterday. The link is on the slide, but I think we also, Carrie, if you don't mind popping that into the chat, or you can find it on our website, hopefully pretty easily. But this is what, oh, thanks so much, Carrie. But this is what that web page will look like. And yeah, so this is kind of a designated page. Hopefully we'll have all of that information that you'll be looking for, information about the grant, about eligibility, which we're going to talk about in a bit more detail shortly, as well as the link to access the application form. This page also has links to an application questions and guidance document and frequently asked questions in both Welsh and English. And in addition to this webinar, we hope these documents will be helpful resources as you complete your application. And that kind of screen capture on the right is just what those will look like on that web page. But definitely do go away and have a bit of an explore of that after this session, if you haven't done so already. Next slide, please, Carrie. Brilliant. So we've recently launched a new portal at UK Youth, which we're going to be using for applications and things going forward. So the very first step to applying for this application, for applying for this grant, is to sign up for that UK Youth portal. And we've created this system. We hope to make it simpler for organizations to access UK Youth information, to apply for grants, and to view all of your past work with us kind of in one simple place, is the idea around that. So the Apply Now button will take you to the portal sign up page. Please click Sign Up Now, where you'll be prompted to that page on the right of the screen. And this looks quite a bit like many other sign up pages you may have used in the past. A couple things to note on this. Once you've entered your email address in, please be sure to click that Send Verification Code button. And this will send an email to your email address with a verification code. These should send fairly quickly, but be sure to check your kind of spam and junk folders just in case it goes there by mistake. But hopefully that will come through in just a couple of minutes. And then once you've entered that code, the system is very clever. It will pop up with another button that says Verify Code, and you'll have to click this in order for it to let you create your account. So if you're doing it quickly, it's easy to miss that, but just be sure you're verifying that code when you're signing up, so you're able to get into the application. So that's, and yeah, more detailed guidance on this, really kind of step-by-step with screenshots and things, can be found in that application guidance as well. So if you're having any trouble, please do refer to this as you're signing up. Next slide, please, Carrie. So now you've created your account, and the next step will be to link yourself to your organization. So to do this, you'll click on My Organization there on the left-hand side of the screen, and then Organization Lookup. And that's going to come up with that kind of screen capture in the top right there. On this page, you'll be able to search for your organization and select it from the drop-down. And if you're a member of the UK Youth Movement, or if you've worked with UK Youth in the past, it's likely that your organization will appear here. And then in that second drop down, please select Administrator. And this is regardless of your job title. It's just so that the system will grant you access to the application form. And then something that we're going to say a lot today, the final step after you've linked yourself to your organization, it's really important to go in and make sure your organization details are complete and up to date. And this really helps us gain kind of a deeper understanding of the youth sector as a whole, the organizations that are working with us, and more importantly, maybe, is that we will be using some of this information here during the assessment of your application. So please be sure to go in and click Edit Organization and fill this in as much detail as possible. Next slide, please, Carrie. So the last one on the portal, I promise, is if you get to that drop down and you search for your organization and you're unable to find it, don't worry, that just means you'll need to register your organization on the portal. So on that page, if you click that little link at the bottom that's circled in red, then this will take you to a form where you can fill in your organization details. And just to say again, it is really important that we capture as much information here as possible. So please do take your time and fill that in as completely as you're able to. Next slide, please, Carrie. Brilliant. So well done. You've now signed up for the portal. You've linked yourself to your organization and you're ready to start. So the grants and programs section on your portal is really going to be the kind of main first port of call for this application. That's where you're going to find the link to the form and everything else that you'll need. So this is where you'll start a new application, or if you've already started one and you want to resume a previous application, this is where you'll be able to do that. And that's what that screen capture shows there, an application that's already been started that somebody wants to go in and continue. Next slide, please, Carrie. So this is what the first page of the application form will look like. And it does include one final reminder to really make sure those organization details are all filled in and up to date. And we know that while this may feel a bit time consuming filling in these details, this step kind of allows us to make the application form itself as simple as possible, as you'll already have told us lots of key information about your organization when you've registered. So we don't need to ask it again in the application form. So that's kind of the thought process behind all of these kind of details about your organization. The form does have a save for later function, which you can see in that screen capture. So you can save your work and come back to it later. It's really important to note, though, that this is not an automatic feature. So if you want to save your work and come back to it later, you'll need to click that button. It won't just save automatically if you exit off the page. So do be sure to actually click that save for later button as you're going through your application. So I think that's all the techie bits out of the way. Thanks so much for bearing with me. And you can always come back to us with any questions if you're having trouble while doing that sign up process. So I'll now pass back to Jeff to get into page 2 and the details of the application.
Thank you. Excellent, Sydney. Thank you so much. And I'll just say to everyone, look, I do understand it can be a bit of a frustration when you want to start an application form. And the first thing you've got to do is all this registering and passwords and linking in. Do appreciate it's not the best thing you may seem, but there is good reason behind it. As many of you, I think, have experienced and know, whenever anyone applies to UK Youth for a fund, obviously we look at their application for that fund, but whether they are successful or not, we keep those details on record should another funding opportunity arise. And a good example of this is our digital inclusion grant, where we have 20 organizations that are receiving funding for the next 3 years with their digital output. Now, all of those candidates, we actually just approached directly and assessed after we had spotted in our database that they could potentially benefit from this fund. So by keeping your organization details, which is what Sydney was referring to just in the earlier slide, by keeping those accurate and up to date, that means that should anything in the future other than this fund crop up, we'll be able to scan your details and have a look and see if there's a fit, and maybe getting back in touch with you and say, well, you know, this has popped up, are you interested? So yeah, please bear with us. It is beneficial. What this will also mean is that when we do our next big fund and you come to apply, or you will already be in our system, and all the information you've already given us up to that point will already be there. So hopefully it will mean a much simpler, shorter and straightforward application process going forward. So here's the fund. Step 2, eligibility requirements. So it's just important that you read these eligibility criteria and that you fit them. What I don't want you to do is waste your time filling out a fund that you're not eligible for. First one, it's pretty important. You have the authority to make this application for funding on behalf of your organization. Because once you apply on behalf of one organization, and you may be a really go-getter youth worker who spotted this and going, I'm going to do this for the youth organization. But if you haven't spoken to, say, your CEO, who also spotted it and is planning to make an application in a few weeks' time, And then they apply and they get immediately rejected because we've already received an application from you. So yeah, that has happened before, so don't fall into that trap. Make sure you have authority to make this application. That your organisation is based and delivering in the UK. That your organisation has a turnover of less than £500,000 a year. Now I'm going to touch on that in a little while in the finance section. I've seen 1 or 2 questions come in on that, but for now, that's the thing. That your organisation is charitable and not for profit, and that you have got a governing document that states this. Your organisation has as its primary purpose the provision of services benefiting young people. This is important. At least 70% of your beneficiaries need to be aged between 8 and 25 years old. Okay, this is very important because these are the young people that our funder wants us to target. So I appreciate you may be a very big organization that does some important youth work, but if you are not primarily a youth organization, and by that our base definition for that is 70% of your beneficiaries are between that age group, then I'm afraid you're not going to meet the eligibility criteria on that one. The applicant organisation has to have been in operation for at least 2 years. So I'm afraid we can't be funding any startups at this point. However, it may be that you have been operating for over 2 years, but you recently turned into a charity, or the structure of your organization changed. And so in some aspects, it may look like you're only a year old. If you, your staff, your organization as such has been running for 2 years, that's acceptable. If you are in that sort of grey area, please reach out to us so we can make sure that you are fully eligible, and we can advise you on how to answer any questions that touch on that. Your organisation must have at least 1 year's full accounts available. It's great if these are online, but we will need you to upload these with your application when you submit. Your organisation must have the proper safeguarding and health and safety policies in place. We may look at this if you are successful with the grant. Your proper insurances, qualifications, affiliations to governing bodies, and so forth. And again, we may need to be checking on these if we award your grant. And the standard compliance with the Equality Act, data protection, and so forth. These should be very standard policies and procedures for all of you. So you're just going to confirm that all that is in place. You click confirm, you press save for later, and then you hit next. There we go. Right, so then we're into step 3, contact details. Really straightforward. There's that drop down, and you select the organisation that you are applying on behalf of. Just to be clear why this is, I mean, for most of you, there will be only one organisation that pops up. However, there may be a few of you who are freelance fundraisers that work for a number of organisations. So this is where this would come in, and you will see then the different organisations that you are connected with, and you select the one that you are applying for. This is a great little additive that we've had. It's going to improve certain this issue. I know for some fundraisers that we've had in the past where there's been a little mix-up with which application they're actually submitting. You then put your name in the main contact. You will be the person we contact throughout for this grant. Once your grant is awarded, you may hand it over to a CEO or someone else or something like that. But for this application, until it comes to its conclusion, this is the person we will need to deal with. So you put your email address in there. If you are registered with the Charity Commission, we would like your registration number. You may have given it to us in your organisation details already, but if you could please enter it again here. That also goes for your company's house registration number. If you click on yes, what happens is a little box pops open, and that's where you pop the number in. If you click no, nothing happens, and that's fine. I would just recommend when you get to the bottom of each page, press save for later before you press next. Okay, and now we are into the real meat and potatoes of this application form. Let me just get my, sorry. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Okay, so I can see the screen. All your happy faces are in the way of the text. There we go. So, question 1, about your organisation and young people. Now, what we've done is we've really split these following questions up into really specific areas of focus to try and help you hone down on the key bits of information, the key message to get across. So, this first question is about your organisation within itself. Now, don't forget to state the obvious, which a lot of people do when they come to this question. What is it your organisation is? Okay, where do you work? Do you work out of a specific location? Do you work within your own building? Do you own that building? What is the setup there? How often are you open and delivering work to young people? 3 days a week? 5 nights a week? Give us that information. And what activities do you provide during that time? It's really about painting a nice, clear picture in the assessor's mind so that they can visualize exactly what sort of an organization they're dealing with before they move on to the next questions. So real basic, no, not that, thank you. Real basic stuff here. Paint a nice descriptive picture of what it is you do, when, where, and how. Okay. Then we go on to the question 7. What is the need? So this is more the why. Why are you doing this? So this is where perhaps your answer will be more emotive than the previous question, whereas question 6 is really laying down the facts and painting a clear picture. This is where you get into why are you doing what you're doing? What is the need you are meeting amongst young people? How do you know that that's the need? How do you know that what you are delivering is what of greatest need, urgency, and importance for the young people you are working with? And how, this is a very important one, how are young people involved in the design and implementation of the services you are providing? So do they regularly feed back to you and guide you on what we need to do and how it should be provided? Do they volunteer within your organization? Do you give them responsibilities? Do they have a voice within your organization to direct it? And how are they listened to when they do voice their opinions and desires? So very important to get that. This is really about, perhaps you could call this the passion question for what you're trying to achieve and deliver. Now, when you're talking about the need for young people, a little tip here is be specific to yourselves. Be specific to your organization. Try not to fall into the trap of talking about the needs of young people nationally or as a whole, or as a big thing. You know, if you're quoting newspaper articles or big studies, that's not really the point. We want to know about what's going on with you in your locality, in your organization. So then we get to question 8. Now, this is, again, quite a passion question. Like I mentioned before, this fund is not just about supporting organizations that are having financial difficulties. This is also about ensuring that we are funding those organizations that are delivering really high quality youth work. So now there were lots of versions, iterations of this question and how we were trying to decide how to present it to you. And in the end, we were like, okay, we don't want to lead you guys too much. We just want you to tell us. You are the youth workers. You tell us what you are doing, you believe is high quality youth work, and what it means to you. What high quality, what impact, what success, and affirmation that you're doing the right thing really means to you. Now, I know that will mean 100 different things to 100 different organizations, and that's absolutely fine, but I want to hear it from you. So give me examples of how you deliver that and why that is important. Okay, again, yeah, this is really, I think, quite at like I said, the passion question. So you might want to talk about inclusive practice and how you ensure you're meeting young people where they are, ensuring that their voices are driving the direction of your organization. You might want to talk about the importance of trusted relationships and how important that is for young people to know. Sorry, I was just running out of power there. To know that they have a trusted adult and a safe space to talk and be themselves. And we also know that high quality youth work can exist absolutely everywhere and anywhere. So, which is also the lean into outdoor learning, which we believe the principles of outdoor learning are incredibly important to youth work. And so if that is something you're aware of and you feed into what you do, then tell us about that as well. So it's really about you telling us how you embed all of these principles into the work you deliver. And speak from the heart. We do not have a checklist for this question on what we are expecting you to say. Okay, it is for you to convince us. Okay, the power is in your hands, as it were. Next slide, please. So this is the big one. How much grant funding are you requesting for the per year? As I said, what we're aiming at is roughly 10% of your annual income. Now, reasons behind this, I appreciate the financial hit that you may be taking could be a lot greater than that. But like I said, we're not looking for this to be the savior fund. This is what we wanted to do, was take some of the sting out of the cost of living crisis and what is happening. We don't expect to solve everything. So the max that you can, it's up to you how much you ask for, but really it's up to about 10% of your annual turnover. Now, I do appreciate that, especially what with the pandemic and everything, in your most recent accounts, your annual turnover may show one figure, but you may know that the account, your next year's account, your current year's accounts, which are maybe due in a month or a couple of months' time, will be a lot different to that. That's okay. If that is the case, then you can tell us about that, and we'll take that into consideration. But for now, You put the amount you're asking for there, and please put the annual amount, not the total over 3 years. Put the annual amount, and if you're successful, we will multiply it by 3. Question 10, how will you use this funding? Now, this is unrestricted funding. So when it comes to it, you can use it however you wish, on whatever you wish. But we want to know how. Tell us. If it's to sort out a R&R trip to Barbados, yeah, we probably won't fund that as much as you think it's important. But if you tell us that you just want to give your staff a pay rise, and that's what you use the 10%, you want to give them a 10% pay rise, that's fine. For the 3 years, that is locked in and you can do that. If you want to use it to take the sting out of some of your utility bills, you can do that too. You may have a really clear idea of what you want to use this money for this year, but not so sure about the next 2 years. That's fine. That's fine. It's not going to be against you if you don't know what you're going to do with it in year 2 and 3. You might have an idea, you can tell us about that, but it's unrestricted. Even if whatever you put in this box, you're then successful, it's unrestricted. So you can still come to us and go, we thought we were going to use it for this, but another funder's now going to cover that. So we think we're going to use it for that instead. That's fine. It's unrestricted. It gives you the power. We want to put the power in your hands, but we would like to know what your plans are. Then, what has caused this financial need? This is an important question here. This is where you're really going to give us the detail of your finances and what's put you in this situation. It could be that you've got certain bills going up, as is happening with everyone, that you've had a loss of income that has been a bit, put you on a bad footing. As I said, you want to give your staff a decent pay rise that they deserve. Everyone needs a pay rise right now, that's for sure. But also remember, as I said before, that this isn't a crisis funding. So it's not necessarily about we're going to fund those who are in the greatest financial need. It could also be that you're ticking along just about okay. You've spent a lot of your reserves, so you've got no safety net, but you've still got far too many young people now coming towards you, wanting your services, and you can't match that demand. And you've spent your money, but you still have more demand and you want to meet that demand. That's equally valid. What is important is that we want to know that you've taken some steps to address whatever financial pain you're in. We don't want to be your first and only option to sort out whatever's going on. We want to know that you've got a constructive plan, because the funding we're giving, we know, isn't savior funding. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's just going to be a part of the puzzle. So tell us about the rest of the puzzle. What's going on? What will your plans be? How will you move forward? If you're not so successful in getting all the money you need, what will be the plan for that? Now, also, as I mentioned just earlier, this is also a place for you to tell us anything else financially. So if your accounts that you're submitting to us, you feel don't truly represent your organization's financial state right now, this is the box where you tell us about it. So an example, if your current accounts show that you've got a nice, decent amount of free reserves to fall back on, but you had those over a year ago, and now because of what's been going on, you've munched all the way through them and don't have any reserves left. That's something to put in this box. That's something to say, those reserves are not accurate. This is more likely the state of our reserves. Similarly, with your income, if you were a £100,000 organisation in your last accounts, but because of things have now picked up and you've applied to stuff and you've got moving, you're now more of a £200,000 organisation, and that's why you want to apply for 20,000 instead of 10, then you tell us about that there. We may not necessarily be able to meet you all the way with that grant amount, but let us know. My big message with finance and anything like this is, if there is something that looks a bit off in your accounts, or if your accounts are not entirely representative of the picture you think your organization is, tell us about it. Don't let us jump to our own assumptions. Okay, then hit save for later, and then hit next. And then here you come with your finances. So this is very straightforward, these next 4 questions, but please make sure you get them right. The accounts that you are submitting to us, please put in the exact income for the year that is showing in those accounts, the exact expenditure, your fundraising, and your free reserves. I appreciate that in some people's accounts, there isn't a figure listed for fundraising. If that's the case, if you're able to stick in an estimate, a rough figure, that will give me an idea. So you may not have a fundraiser. I think most of you don't. But, you know, maybe the CEO or someone spends a day or 2 a week doing fundraising. So just sort of quantify that a little and stick it in there. It just gives us a little idea of what's set up. And similarly with free reserves, put the figure that's published in your accounts, but if that's not correct, you can, in the previous question 11, tell us about that there. Okay, then you press save for later and go to next. And so this is the final step. So hopefully you've not found that too arduous an application form and pretty straightforward to write. As I said, please write from the heart. That's what really matters. But what you should do now is use your previous buttons to just go back and check all your responses, that you're happy with them, there are no typos in there or anything. We would really not, you know, if straight after submitting you spot a blatant typo, get in touch with us, we might be able to adjust it. But if after submitting you then have a chat with some of your work colleagues and think, oh, well, you should have phrased something better, we can't go back and redo that. I'm afraid we're going to get a lot of applications, so we're just going to have to take what's submitted. So take your time now to please reread what you've submitted, that you're happy. Once you have done that and you're happy with it, I need you to upload 2 documents. The first will be your most recent financial accounts. So you click on select file and you'll be able to browse through, select your accounts and attach them. Can I please ask you that when you do that, could you ensure that the file name that you attach has the name of your organization in it? It just makes it a heck of a lot easier when we're making sure that the correct files are with the correct applications, especially when it gets to our financial due diligence and we're sending files around. So for both of these documents, could you please make it, you know, Southgate Youth Club financial accounts, Southgate Youth Club bank statements as the name of your files. Once you have correctly selected and uploaded the file, you will see that a very faint yellow haze appears around the button, as you can see in the second button here. Also, if you hover your mouse over it, the file name should pop up. I'm sorry that there isn't a more clearer sort of upload complete button. We haven't been able to figure out how to do that. But so upload those 2 files, first your financial accounts and then a copy of your recent bank statement. Just to clarify, This cannot be a screenshot of an online account. We're not allowed to accept that because this is how we run our financial due diligence. What this is got to be a photo or a scan of an actual bank statement. We are not interested in seeing how much money is in your account at all. What we need to do is see your account number, your sort code, name and address of the bank. Okay, that's what's important. Some of you might have paying in slips that have that hold that information as well, and those are acceptable to accept again. The reason we're asking for this now is what we want to do is ensure that those people who are successful get their money as quickly as possible. So as soon as you submit your application and we start assessing it, we're going to start running all the financial due diligence at the back end at the same time. So there is no time lag. It's not like first you're assessed, then a decision is made, and then we've got to go through all the financial procedures. We're running all of that at the same time, which is why we're aiming for this really fast turnaround time to get money into your account when you do apply. Once you've selected those, you click on the yes, I give permission to store my data. You can save for later, but then you press submit. Once you press submit, that's it. You've done. You will get what will they get? Sydney, jump in. What happens when they press submit?
I was just about to take over there. Yeah, when you press submit, you'll see a kind of landing page that says, thank you for your submission, kind of thing. And then you will also get an automated confirmation email from us. And again, this should come through in kind of 5 minutes or so, but please do check your spam and junk folders just in case you don't see this. And that confirmation email will also have a unique application reference number. So if you do need to get in touch about an application, please, if you could just quote this number in any emails with us, that would be fantastic. But you will get a confirmation email upon submission. So
that's the whole process. Really interested to get a bit of feedback from everyone. I saw loads of questions piling in. So Urs, is there anything outstanding in the chat that you want to raise first?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Sydney, go for it, yeah.
I was going to just jump onto one real quick, which was, will we get a copy of the application in the confirmation email? So unfortunately, no, you won't. We couldn't quite figure out how to make that happen, but you will get instructions on how to view your application. So you can do all of this through the portal. So you'll be able to go into grants and programs, and where before it said continue application, there'll be a button that says view your application. So it is possible to see what you've submitted, but it won't be included in that confirmation email.
Thanks, Sydney. I'm going to let Lisa come in with her question in a moment, but just before then, I had a question a bit earlier on. So just wanted to double check this, as this might also apply for some of you. They are a constituted voluntary organisation with their own bank account, but they are also a youth arm of a church charity. So the question was, do they apply on behalf of their youth team, or would they apply on behalf of the charity, Jeff?
That would be, so you have your own bank account. Do you have your own accounts? Is the question I would ask.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so you are within yourselves a separate organisation, but within an umbrella organisation, is that correct?
yeah, that would be the setup. We're a voluntary constituted group, but we're under a church umbrella, which is a registered charity.
Right, but your accounts, where would they, are they available online?
No, I don't think so. They're submitted. We're not, because we're not a company or a charity, we're a constituted voluntary group.
Okay.
Our accounts go into the church's accounts. So our accounts will be part of the submission to the Charities Commission.
Right, but they're standalone from the church.
They're standalone. We get our own grants and things like that, but we also get money from the church. So it's quite complicated. We are going to become our own charity, but not other, it's obviously a long process. So
sure. So that would be, so you would apply as in within your own right.
Okay.
but important to put a few of those details in the financial box question 11, so that when these sort of issues pop up when we're assessing you, we can see the situation that you are in, and then come back to you with any questions.
On the back of that, and I think I saw somebody else ask something similar, there's the only other arm in the church is a homeless sort of arm as well, the same as us, exactly the same as us for homeless people in the area. If when we do our calculations about beneficiaries, the church has actually supports over 70% young people through all of its activities, could we then apply as the church?
Yes.
Yes, because they have a larger income, you see, than us. So right. Yeah. So obviously, you know, looking at what would work for us better, that would obviously be amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, and particularly if those homeless people are under
young.
25.
Yeah, okay, that's really helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think what the best thing might be to do is go to hands in the room, and then we've got a couple of questions in the chat, and then we'll read the questions out and we'll answer them as well. So I'll start with Lisa. Go for it.
Hi, yes, the question on the application form about fundraising costs. Would you count a bid writer as a fundraising cost? And if it's a CIC that has income through trading, would you count a salesperson as a fundraising cost?
No, not the salesperson. Necessarily. That's an interesting question. Is a salesperson a fundraiser? I mean, your bid writer definitely. That's interesting. That's a good point. So I suppose if these are good questions. If the only reason for that person to be in your organization is to bring funds in, then I suppose, yes, they do come under that fundraising. But I wouldn't want you to be inflating your costs because of that. So you will need to, in question 11, perhaps identify that and sort of say, you know, this may seem like we've got lots of fundraisers, but actually they are salespeople and, you know, part of the CIC.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Can we go over to Teen Action? Oh, I can't hear you actually.
Looks like you're muted, Ellie.
No, I still can't hear you. Do you want to type your question into the chat, and then we'll head over to Damien then in the meantime? Damien?
Hi. Yes, morning everyone. Yeah, so thank you very much for this morning. There's obviously lots of information there. So if I'm asking a question you've already answered, I already apologise in advance. If we put through an application and actually we do the whole justification process, the amount we're asking for is over the 10% threshold, and obviously we do our best to justify that, would the application either be accepted, rejected, or could we be accepted on the lesser amount, or is that not possible?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, don't worry. You're not going to destroy your chances by asking for a bit more. Obviously, you know, if you are asking for sort of 50% of your turnover, you're going to raise some eyebrows amongst the assessors. But no, if you put forward a reason and justification for wanting more than 10%, but we're unable to meet that, and it may be that we just feel, no, sorry, this is similar to others who we're only giving 10%, so that's what we're doing, or any other reason, then what we will do is we'll just scale you back if we still really like you and want to support you. We're not going to penalise you for having asked for a bit more. And that may even be the case for those of you that ask for 10%. the actual decision makers of, you know, Sydney and I will be assessing. We will not be deciding. So the actual decision makers can decide whatever they want. They may decide to, you know, you may ask for 10 and they may give you 20%. You may ask for 10 and they may give you 5%, depending on how they have felt your application has come across in relation of needs. We are going, you know, trying to assess people within themselves just on your application, but invariably for a process that's going to be lasting for quite a while, we will start comparing applications, especially successful ones, with others as we're assessing. We're going, okay, this is kind of where the boundary is. This is kind of what people are asking for in the state, so that there is equality and fairness in the grants that are being distributed, regardless of whether you've applied in the first week or in 3 months' time.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sheila, does that answer your question as well? Is Sheila still on the call?
Yeah, got a thumbs up. Yeah.
Brilliant. Jeff, I just want to follow up on that because there's an earlier question, someone asking if they'd applied for 20 grand per year, so in total 60 grand, and we felt like they wouldn't get that amount. Would they be automatically unsuccessful, or would we offer them a lower amount? My original advice was, because this is going to panel, it might be that they just say it's unsuccessful. Is the advice that we may offer a smaller grant then?
Yeah, the panel have it within their power to go, look, we understand the situation, but we just can't afford to, you know, I've seen it before where the panel have looked at it and thought, right, we either give them the full £20,000 or we can give them 10 and this other organisation 10. So yeah, it will be up to the panel to make that call, but it's not all or nothing.
Yeah, brilliant. Hope that answers the question then. Northbourne Youth Initiative. We're almost through the questions on the chat.
Did we get to the question from Ellie?
I'm just looking.
Oh yeah, it's just popped in. Here we go.
Okay, brilliant. With 3 questions. So our last accounts show income of 285k. We just came to the end of our financial year last month and have managed accounts showing 340k. Would we be able to attach those management accounts along with the published accounts to justify a higher funding ask?
Yeah, I'm just reading the rest of the question.
Go for it. I think they're 3 separate questions, yeah. And while Jeff is reading, Lisa, is your hand still up or have you got another question?
Sorry, that's an old hand.
That's okay.
Okay, Ellie, so first of all, yes, what you can do is if you have your management accounts ready, then you can submit those as your uploaded accounts. And therefore, the figures that are in those accounts are the ones that you could put in the answers questions 12, 13, 14, and 15. I'm assuming your last year's accounts will be online on the Charity Commission website or something like that. So we'll still be able to access those anyway. You should make reference in question 11. To explain the situation. Management accounts and extraction of QuickBooks is yeah, I'm not familiar with QuickBooks, but if you are able to upload a working document of those accounts, then that's acceptable. If not, then you're going to have to go with your older accounts and then explain it in the question, in question 11. Good. And And other questions that you had, regard to financials. Okay, so this is just, as far as your financial need, this is just an argument that you're going to have to get across in line to reserves, stability, and how you are looking. So you need to address, the demand of the young people that are coming in and why you still feel that you are in financial need. If you feel that a first look at your accounts tells a different picture. So I think that's an important question for you to get right there, Ellie. I hope that answers your questions.
Jeff, we'd have a few more. Can we fund new positions with the funding, or is it just to fund existing costs?
Okay, well, we're not specifically looking to fund anything new or anything innovative or anything special, and we're not looking for our name on it and to be able to go, that's our youth worker, or this is our building, or anything. Yeah, it is very much about funding what already exists, what already works. Okay, so I want to take that pressure off anyone that thinks they've got to do something new. If, however, as I said, you are responding to unprecedented need, and that's where your financial pinch is coming from, and maybe you've got to bring in a staff member for that reason, that's acceptable, that's fine. So we're not going to knock you out because it's a new cost, but but funding a new thing is by no means has an advantage over someone that's just funding basic things that are already existing.
We've got a question asking if 2 to 3 orgs could get together, and if their total income is under 500k, roughly 250k, can they apply for 25k per annum?
Ooh, okay. Yes, you can. We love partnerships. So I'm very into supporting if a few organizations want to get together. There are 2 ways that can happen. Either one where a lead organization, actually, whichever way, unless the 3 of you are going to quickly get together and form an actual organization or some group together we can look into, one of you is going to have to take the lead on the application. Because at the end of the day, when we're doing our financial due diligence, we're going to have to look at the bank accounts, run a bank account system check on one of the organizations. So, and that will be the organization that the grant payment is made to. So there'll have to be some trustingness there that organization will then pass on those funds equally to its partners. But that's happened before. That's happened with Thriving Minds, so that's okay. So yes, you could do it, but you can obviously, within the application form, you're going to have to make it absolutely clear what you're doing, the benefits of it, and why. And we will then look at combined costs of organizations. But like I say, you've got to make sure that's really clear in the application form so that we are not making any mistakes over how we are viewing and assessing your application.
Thanks, Jeff. Had a question from Craig just above. Is there a recommended free reserves level upper limit for free reserves? Thank you.
No, not really. But if you think it's a bit high, talk to us about it. Tell us. If it's 50 quid and a packet of Haribos, well, tell us about that as well and why it's only that. So we're not here to dictate to you and tell you this is how you should run your organization. We're here to hear from you why you run your organization the way you do and why you need us to do what we're going to do. So yeah, you set the rules and tell us.
Thanks, Jeff. Question from Jane. So their income last year was just under 400K, but then they were gifted a piece of land that's valued at $1 million. The auditors insisted that they include this in their income on their accounts. So this distorts from the actual income figures. They are planning to build on this land and are fundraising separately for this. Would they still be eligible to apply?
Bloody damn auditors, those finance people, my God. Yeah, this is one thing that you should definitely list in your question 11. If you're really a bit stressed about it, we can have a chat, but that's the sort of thing, yeah, I totally get that. It's not the first it's happened to. Willing to do a workaround on that situation, yeah, because essentially you're still the organization you are, even if you're sitting on a big chunk of land.
We've had this question come up a few times. Can organizations apply for this fund even if they're already currently funded by UK Youth?
Yes. Perhaps address that. As I always say about all applications, don't let an assessor jump to the wrong conclusion. So yeah, declare it and then explain why you still need some more.
Okay. I think I've covered all of the questions in the chat now or answered back to them separately. If you feel your question has not been answered though, please could you put your hand up and or rewrite it in the chat. Apologies.
Or just speak up. Yeah.
Or speak up. Whatever you're comfortable with. You're very welcome, Hannah.
Or if you've just got some feedback you want to tell us, chuck that in as well, because we're here every week for the next 3 months, doing a Wednesday matinee, or no, it's a Tuesday matinee, isn't it? Tuesday matinee. So really appreciate feedback. You know, tell me to be quiet and Sydney do more of the chat. I'd be actually particularly interested in what you felt about the intro that Sydney did. And you know, how you've done with signing on, because we appreciate that's a bit of a yeah, not the best bit of it, but would yeah, love to hear your info, your feedback on your experience getting onto the portal.
Brilliant. As we said earlier, we've obviously recorded this, so we're aiming to get this up on our YouTube channel hopefully by the end of the week. If you have any other questions, email us at funding@ukyouth.org. If you want to come back to another webinar, please feel free to do so using the Eventbrite link. You can attend as many of these sessions as you want.
And of course, don't forget, please, everything we've said here is available in written format on the 2 PDFs we've produced, the application guidance and questions, and also the FAQs. So make sure you get those, read through them. There's a load of, you know, really put in as much info as we can. Again, really love some feedback. You know, if there's anything we can do to improve either these documents or, you know, this pitch, then, you know, let us know so we can be a bit better next time.
Just checking if we've got any last questions.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I missed the very start, so you may have already covered this. Is there a downloadable version of the application form so that organisations can collaborate in completing it before somebody fills it in on the online portal?
Yeah, so the PDF application guidance and questions lists every single question in it with a full written guidance underneath each question on how you should answer it, saying much of the same stuff I've said. So if you download that form, you'll have everything you need to be able to go through questions.
Is there any possibility of getting a Word version that can actually be typed into? Because when you're a small organisation, it's quite time consuming to have to retype questions from a PDF.
If you get in touch with us, Lisa, I'm more than happy to send that to you. And if anybody else would like to request that, we can get that to you. That's no problem. If you just
Lovely.
email that funding at email address.
Thank you.
And of course, we've got it all in Welsh as well, if you require. And on that point, if you are having any difficulties with the form, with the language we use or anything like that, reach out to us. English is not your first language. I appreciate I can get a bit flowery in my description sometimes. So if you're not quite getting me, please reach out, and I'm happy to work with you on your application and your understanding of that if you need some more support.
And just to reiterate what Jeff said earlier on, it will only be one application per organisation. So if you're not successful, we won't be looking at any further applications from that organisation. I know that question's come up a few times as well.
Yeah, sorry, it's got to be one bite of the cherry.
Right. Well, I've come to the end of the chat and I can't see any other questions. Is there any other questions in the group?
Yeah, sorry guys. Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Tunde from Believe It Chief. We've been struggling to log in. We've just managed to get into the chat now. We've not really we've missed a lot of the presentations itself. But can you just summarize in terms of the funding itself of how much it is per organization can apply for? And I understand it. And would that be continuous for? Would that be kind of yearly kind of reapplicate? Do we need to reapply again? Or just a summarize of the presentation, if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
Sure. It's so the average grant size is going to be 10% of your annual income. So if you're a £100,000 organisation, we'd expect you applying for about £10,000, and then that will be repeated. So if you're successful, we will be distributing then £10,000 a year every year for 3 years. And all you would need to do is at the end of every year, fill in an online grant report form, pretty light touch, just telling us how you spent the money, what it impacted, that sort of thing. And after receiving, that would have to happen every 12 months after you receive your first grant. And then we would release the next year's funding to you. I'm sorry you missed the connection. You weren't able to hook on. We are doing another one of these on Tuesday and every week for the next 3 months. So you're more than welcome to sign up for another event. And we'll also be posting this on YouTube so you can watch it back in your own time.
Abdi, have you got a question?
Yes, so thank you. I hope everyone hear me. I understand it now says if your income is under 400 grand, but what about if our grant is if our income is under 50? Do you understand me?
Yeah, there is no minimum turnover for you to qualify. So if your organisation only turns over £15,000 a year, then you can still apply to us for £1,500, £2,000 if that's it. So yeah, not a problem.
Okay, thanks a lot. I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I've got one more question. Sorry. do we know how many organizations stand a chance to be successful in these applications, or is it just as many organizations as possible, or is there a restriction on how many organizations? So so we know what the competition is like for it.
Well, yeah, good question. We are taking a calm and reasoned approach to the distribution. So like I said, this fund will be open for at least 2 or 3 months. And we're looking for those examples of high quality youth work. So we don't mind taking our time waiting to find those. We obviously want to support as many organizations as possible, but we also want the funding to be meaningful, which is why we plumped for that 10% mark. But although the funding pot is over £4.5 million so far, we are expecting that to grow and extend. So if our fundraisers do a good job and bring in several more £1 million, then we will have more grantees that come out of that. How many grantees? Well, it's hard to put a figure on. Our rough estimate is somewhere between 200 to 300, based on the current amounts of money that are swirling around. But it'd be great if it could be, if our reach can be more of that. So, we are pushing out to as many organizations to boost our funding pot as we can.
Thank you very much. And sorry, and do you have priorities?
Yes, too many to go through in detail right now. So that's what we've just spent the past hour and a half on so far. But so read those 2 documents that we have, our PDFs, that really lists them out. And like I say, do come to another one of our webinars. And, we can give you a really clear picture on that.
Yeah, so if you've missed parts of this presentation, you can view it on our YouTube channel later this week. As Jeff just said, you are more than welcome to attend another webinar, as many webinars as you would like to as well. So please don't fret that this might be your last chance to get hold of us. We will be online, alternating between Tuesdays and Thursdays each week.
I'm also just going to jump in because I spotted Sheila there from Youth Action. How are you, Sheila? You doing good?
I'm good, Jeff. Thank you. Jeff, can I just clarify just on that wee question around a low annual income for some of our members? If they have, say, a low income of, like, say, maybe 15,000, so their ask is going to be quite low, but they've just recently been affected by a lot of cuts, meaning that their provision will have a massive impact on provision and staff. And can that be included into the application? And can you maybe justify increased need there and an increased ask?
You definitely can. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, that is where, like I say, we want to make sure our grants are meaningful, and we're very aware at that lower amount, that is perhaps where there is the biggest cause to perhaps go over our 10% mark, because then we can give just a little bit more, but it can have a much more meaningful impact. What I also wanted to say, I spoke to one of your colleagues at Thriving Minds. I forget his name.
Michael McKenna?
Yeah, with the flat cap. He's great. And as I said to him, I am very happy, and this goes out to any other infrastructure organizations. If you would like us to do one of these webinars specifically for the organizations you work with, drop me a line and we will do that for you, and we can really blend it to match your requirements, your needs, and the sort of people that you work with. Yeah, so realize that some, especially the larger infrastructure organizations that may not be eligible to apply directly, what I can offer is that we'll come and work directly with you in
That's brilliant.
Okay? So please reach out. Let's get something in the diary.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, Susan, you too. Yeah.
Frills. Any last few questions?
Sorry, just to ask something. How do you quantify the 10%? Would that be by, how do we prove it? Would it be by the audited submitted account to the HMRC, or is there any other way?
Yeah, it's based on your last year's accounts.
Susan, I can see your hand up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I looked like I wasn't on mute. Anyway, I'm really sorry. That makes me ask a question, because our accounts were for an 18-month period. So will I just put an explanatory note?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I.
Yeah, in question 11.
Yeah, just go into all the detail.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I think we've covered it. Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this, our very first webinar. Huge well done to Jeff and Sydney for running such a wonderful session. As we said, if you have any questions, we've put our email into the chat. That's funding@ukyouth.org. You'll be able to rewatch this webinar by the end of the week. If you have more questions, or you just feel that you would benefit from coming to another session, please go to the Eventbrite link and sign up to one of the sessions. I believe the Tuesday one is looking sort of full because so many people couldn't get into this one, but the rest of the dates coming up are fairly empty. So please don't fret if you can't get into the Tuesday one. Have a lovely rest of the day, and we look forward to hearing from some of you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff,
Thanks.
Roz, and Sydney.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.